If we can give educators real-time feedback, if we can give them the right screening and progress monitoring tools to understand what's happening with this learner, and we can turn educators into more agile, personal supports to these students, I think we will see a shift.
Welcome to the Talking AI podcast, where we talk AI with both experts in the field and early adopters. I'm your host, Matt Paige, and we're here to demystify AI for you so you can get some value from it. Let's talk some AI. Every generation of educators faces a transformational technology. We had calculators, the internet, Google, now generative AI, and the pattern's always the same: a resistance, then grudging adoption, then a realization that the tool doesn't replace learning. It raises the floor for what's possible. And right now, students are using ChatGPT, among many other AI tools, to shortcut homework while teachers scramble to figure out how to respond. And the real question isn't how to stop them, it's how to redesign the system so the technology actually makes learning deeper, more personalized, more equitable. And Todd Brekhus has been building EdTech for 25 plus years, from the early days of the internet in classrooms to co-founding and the president of myON to now leading product at Renaissance, one of the largest and most data-rich EdTech platforms in the world. They just launched Renaissance Intelligence, their first AI-native education intelligence system. And today we're getting into what it actually takes to bring AI into the classroom in a way that empowers teachers, meets students where they are, and doesn't just add another disconnected tool to the pile. But welcome to Talking AI, Todd.
All right, Matt, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. I've been wanting to have somebody in the EdTech space for a very long time. I've talked about it with several guests. I'm excited to have somebody that's actually deep in this space. But Todd, I want to start with something I saw firsthand that kind of crystallized this whole topic for me. And I've mentioned this before in previous episodes, but I take my daughter to dance every week, and the studio is too far away from my house to drive back home. So I end up working at a Starbucks nearby, and it's right next to a high school. So there are always kids in there. And one day I was sitting at one of the communal tables, and I couldn't help but overhear these high school students going back and forth with ChatGPT about their homework, just out in the open, totally normal to them. And I couldn't help myself. I had to ask them, how often do you use ChatGPT for your homework? And I'm not joking, like without hesitation, every single one of them was like 100% of the time. Like didn't even cross their mind to think about it. And the thing that hits me is, the teacher's assigning the homework, the students pumping it into ChatGPT, ChatGPT's giving them the answer, then they give it back to the teacher. And let's be honest, the teacher's probably leveraging AI to help build the lesson plan and in some cases grade it. So you've got AI on both sides, and the actual learning is getting lost somewhere in the middle. You've been at EdTech for 25 plus years. You were in classrooms when schools were literally figuring out how to use the internet on the EdTech space. When you see something like that, what's your gut reaction? Are we in a moment of panic, or is this just that messy middle of something that's actually going to be really good for education?
Oh, it's such a good question. And first of all, I can reflect on the dance dad point. I don't know if you've had to get in your outfits yet and do the daddy-daughter dance thing yet. Okay, yeah. Been there, done that. My daughter's now a senior in college, so has lived through both the dance pieces as well as the ChatGPT world of education. So
yeah, so mine are 10 and a 4-year-old. I know it goes by quick, but like literally from 10 to college, what did that feel like? Was that just like snap of the finger?
Oh, at the time, no, but now it's like, oh my gosh, she's graduated from college this year, and it's like, wow, it has gone very, very fast, and absorb and enjoy every moment, and all the embarrassment she can pour on you, the better.
Yeah, I love it. Sorry to derail there, but she just hit double digits, and I'm like, man, this is going by very fast. So.
Yeah, I have four kids, only one dancer, but that was my last child, and she was amazing at dance, and it was so much fun. But a lot of days in the parking lot waiting for dance pickup. Let me tell you.
But this moment that's going on, what's your take on it? Because I know a lot of people have varying reactions of good, bad. weird.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I think the first reaction is the kids got there first. Like my son, November, I think it was Thanksgiving break. He was a junior in college, came home. There's this new launch that just happened this week and showed me ChatGPT, and it was incredible. I was blown away. And yeah, of course, every paper he did for the next year and a half was completely using some type of agent, some type of bot to help him support his writing. And we talked a lot about what are your ideas? What were your ideas versus what were the system's ideas? And did you understand?
Quick break in the pod. Our State of AI 2026 report just dropped, and it breaks down what actually is changing in AI, what's hype, and what leaders need to be paying attention to this year. You can grab it right now on our show notes or at hatchworks.com.
And now I'm a former educator, so I'm not going to let him just throw something back to the teacher without knowing it himself. But not all parents have that time or that ability. And frankly, the educators got a little bit caught flat-footed on this model. And it's, I think, a little different than the internet in that, so I got a backstory myself. I was teaching teachers how to use the internet. That was my first job after teaching. I was fortunate enough to travel around with Dr. Vince Cerf, the creator of TCP/IP and the internet.
Wow.
And
Okay.
got to follow in his footsteps after he'd go give presentations, and then I would help the schools get wired. I would help teach the teachers how to use the internet. And back at MCI WorldCom, which now Verizon, was a really powerful start for right out of teaching and learning. And we trained about 50,000 educators in that first 2 years, and it was incredible. But in many ways, we were, the model of the internet was I can find something. Like I can remember the first time I looked at the Louvre, and you got the Mona Lisa coming, and it took only a minute and a half to actually get that picture on the screen. And then you'd go, imagine what's going to change with education if you can see all these different things you haven't been able to see before. And it was an aha moment of the information is in front of me. It's here. I don't have to go to that physical library. I don't have to pull out that research text. Look how much easier this is. And so I think the easiness factor was there. The data model of information is available to us and we should consume it. That's always been part of education.
Yeah.
I think this model of generative, that something is getting created by a machine, it changes the game quite a bit. And I don't think educators are quite ready in some respects. I think we've gone from, you got to buy a product to make sure cheating hasn't happened, and now you got to buy a product to make sure AI hasn't done it all for you. Now there are systems and tools that the colleges are putting in to make sure that copy paste is tracked and how that is working. And yeah, granted, but the worry I have with the generative AI piece is in many ways we're giving it to students too quickly compared to what we're giving to teachers. And I think we need a significant program of educator awareness, educator understanding. And then our top officials need to start thinking about what does curriculum and instruction really look like for the future? And how do we incorporate an AI-driven model into teaching and learning so that we, the smart adults who know how to deliver education to kids, can do it in a mindful way that has the technology at hand and uses it effectively, but doesn't just fill in the answers. So teaching and learning has to change quite a bit to adapt to AI.
And I think that's such a good point there. And in my opinion, I'm glad the students are pushing this. And to be honest, I think I envision this game of whack-a-mole where it's like, we got to detect AI. And I'll be honest, I see tools out there that are like, okay, you're going to try to find the copy paste. I'm going to build a tool that looks like it's naturally writing something out. So it's just going to keep happening.
Or I'm going to write the prompt in such a way that I'm going to say, don't make it look like you actually were, make it look more like me. Here's my last 10 writings, and become my own agent, if you will.
100%. And the models are getting so good that it can do that. And it reminds me of, like you mentioned, I always feel like I'm young, but I'm about to hit 40. But when I was in, I can't remember if it was middle school or early high school, Google was like the new thing, right? And before,
Yeah.
when we did a research paper, we had to learn the process of going to the library. How do you check out a book? How do you research and find all the detail you need? And then we had Google, and we started doing things differently to where we would go to Google to do our research, and it completely circumvented that whole process before. And there was, I think, a lot of resistance to that. But what was enabled was I could do way more meaningful work with this new tool. So I think the interesting part was, okay, how do educators adjust to the lesson, the approach, what they're asking of students now that they have this new tool in their hands? And I'm curious too, like you were president at myON when the idea that books, don't have to be restricted to a place and time, unlimited digital learning, which sounds very obvious now, right? But it wasn't then. Like, what gave you
Right.
that conviction that that would work and that would be a thing? Because I think we're seeing similar patterns now where this feels like some weird thing with generative AI, but I think several years down the road, it's going to be obvious that we're leveraging this.
Yeah, boy, there's so much to get into, and I'll first answer your question about, I think, kind of connecting the dots of the internet. And the usefulness of the internet was, if I'm waiting a minute and a half for the Louvre to show up and all of a sudden, wow, I got a painting in my room, like, doesn't really change teaching and learning. Maybe I get an answer quickly about
Yeah.
the War of 1812, or maybe I get a specific link to other research and information that can help fill in my gaps. But I think that we absolutely had to shift education to be much more of how am I articulating knowledge? How am I articulating information? How am I synthesizing this information? How am I proving fact versus fiction? I think that was the difficulty in teaching and transformation with the teaching of the internet. Now we're actually talking about, how do I produce something and create something and show knowledge when I'm giving this over to an agent, to a generative bot? And how do I ensure that I'm not getting less smart, and I'm
Yes.
actually increasing my information? Because I think what
Yes.
what the internet age gave us is, hey, I have more information quickly. I can synthesize more. I can speed up some of the the difficulty of going to get all that information and going to the research library and going to this place and going to that place to get the information. And so the transformation with myON was, look, we should get all these books digitized. We should have this ability. Why do we have physical libraries just to check in and check out? Remember, you probably, when you were in middle school, you went to check in your book. You couldn't check in the last one because you didn't turn in the 2 books before, and you were
Exactly.
restricted from
Yeah.
reading. Like, that doesn't make sense. We're in the age of on-demand video, on-demand television, on-demand everything. Why can't we have on-demand books? And the challenge at that time was we didn't have the delivery devices in the schools and the level of licensing models that worked for schools. So just like Netflix came about to provide us an unlimited on-demand movie model, we didn't have that for education because schools weren't used to purchasing an unlimited on-demand SaaS model for reading and literacy. And that was the transformation there was a business model change where schools didn't have to buy every single book, just like we don't have to buy a first right to every single movie. We get all of these movies, and we can pick the ones we want to go to at the time. So frankly, there were the video companies, especially Netflix, were well ahead in this model on the CD-ROM side. And when it went online and we were seeing rumors that the iPad was coming out and this physical device, we'd already had the Nook, and that was a business model change. And at the same time, my passion was, I want literacy to become unlimited. I don't want it to be restricted for kids who, if the schools are going to give these devices and they're going to do the Chromebook activity and they're going to bring iPads in the classroom, I want kids to have unlimited reading opportunities and not be restricted. And so that it was a creative business model, and it was the publishers ready to adapt to a new business model similar to the movie production studios that had to adapt Netflix model. They had to adapt in an unlimited reading model. And we were really the only ones at the time to have an unlimited subscription model reading, unlimited environment, and then to create the connections to the classroom. What do teachers need to do to transform? If you have an unlimited nonfiction library in the classroom, everybody doesn't have to pick one book. You can pick multiple books. You can think about the biographies you're going to read or the autobiographies, et cetera. So anyway, the myON model, I think the transformation there was a business model, but also a shift in, wow, if I have all these resources, I don't have to wait for the book to be checked in or checked out.
Yeah, I get chills kind of thinking about that a bit, because in my mind, I'm thinking how that applies in this new age. And this is all very personal to me right now, because I'm going through it firsthand as a parent, kids in school. And so my daughter struggles with learning a bit. She gets outside tutoring and help like that. And it's just how her brain works, right? She processes things differently, super smart in her own way, but sometimes the traditional method doesn't work. But this idea of personalized learning, similar to how, any kid can go read anything, being able to have some personalized nature that's tailored to how she learns, just blows my mind in terms of the potential. And then you look at underserved communities, and not just like here in the US, but globally, right? So anybody can literally have effectively this teacher, through generative AI that can help them progress and learn and just spark their imagination. And to me, I think that's the power and the potential in it. But it's right now square peg, round hole, very much, in terms of like the current education system. But the personalized nature of it, I think that's, in my mind, where a lot of the potential lives. And I feel like there's parallels to what you just talked about. I'm curious your thoughts on the personalized nature of
I
this.
think everybody can see the leap to the personalization of the student. And before I go there, I think my bias right now at this season, at this time frame in education technology, I think we need that personalization to get to teachers first. And I'm not saying that kids shouldn't use the AI. I'm of course, use the technology. I've always been a fan of using the technology, but my worry is if the teacher's opportunity to really understand these young humans that are in our classes that have this tremendous potential, I will strongly believe that a human interaction and a human connection, I think we can all remember our favorite teacher, our favorite breakthrough in a subject area, our favorite, when we persisted and we tried so hard and we finally got it. That aha moment is, I think, very hard to do in a simulated environment compared to a human environment. And I think there's a balance between where the simulated versus where the human side of this is. And what I'm really focused on right now, and what our company is really focused on right now, is how do we give the best tools to the teacher to personalize? And so while personalization sounds like it needs to get to the individual student, and it does, at the end of the day, the learner is the one that's got to pick this up, that's got to start to grow, that's got to build this self-efficacious model of, I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to be successful, I want to please mom and dad, I want to do the right thing. They've got to start to take that ownership, and that will happen. But all of these foundational skills, all of these, especially in the young ages of your children right now, that educator is critical to this guidance in the model. And so for me, this is, how do we personalize the teaching and learning? And so if we get the power into the hands of the teachers in a way, like, let's just take literacy acquisition for a moment. We know that we know the science says about literacy acquisition. And so if a student has missed some of those steps and those stages, and the teacher doesn't have any data about what is missed for that child, they're going to just teach the whole class the same way we were taught. Like, okay, everybody repeat after me. And I'm sorry, some of those classes can be a real bore and frankly, a turnoff to learning, especially when I got all these cool tools at home that can just tell me the answer. Why do I have to go learn the answer? Or why do I have to learn the methodology to get towards how the code comes together to read, or how a sentence makes meaning, and how a meaning of a sentence makes a paragraph, and a paragraph makes, all the components of teaching the bots that we've had to do with generative AI and how all those interconnections of subjects and verbs and all the rest. But I guess the point being here, if we can give educators real-time feedback, if we can give them the right screening and progress monitoring tools to understand what's happening with this learner, and we can turn educators into more agile, personal supports to these students, I think we will see a shift in, this, everyone learns together in this one big environment. Everyone learns at the same pace and the same time. That's I think has shown us in the last 60 years, we have not seen any growth in NAEP scores or in any scores in general. And since COVID, we've obviously come down. So the question to me is, how do we help the educator personalize teaching and learning? And I think data is a big piece. I think we're all focused on the generative AI piece. And I think obviously it's a massive breakthrough and it's going to transform and change. And I believe all of the things that, whether it's Sam Altman or Elon Musk or others have said, that I think it is absolutely going to be changing how information and data and programming and creation and optimizations are going to happen and throughout our industries. But for this little young learner that's maybe 6 years old, learning how to read, and that teacher, how can that teacher personalize for this 6-year-old, this 8-year-old, this 9-year-old in a way that they have the data to inform them, they have agents and support tools available to them, and they can deploy AI in a way that affects that individual learner, those groups of learners having similar experiences, and in a sense, manage multiple kids in a class at the same time at different paces and spaces.
Yeah,
I think is a really interesting one.
That's really smart, because at the end of the day, like young kids, they're worried about what's for lunch, what am I doing at recess today? They don't know how to be their own advocates. It's almost teaching
That's right.
the teacher how to fish, in a sense, because once you empower them and turn that light on for the educator, like then they're the biggest advocate for the children. So that actually makes a lot of sense, because if it's almost the Wild West. And to your point, the educator can be the biggest bottleneck in the system if you don't win them over on how to leverage this new technology. I will say though, my daughter was learning conjunctions the other day, and I still went back to conjunction, Schoolhouse
junction.
Rock.
What's my function?
Exactly. Yeah. There's still some stuff from the old school that still works very well. But you touched on data a few times, and so obviously we help, companies and enterprises with their AI adoption strategy, all of these things, but it all comes back to data at the end of the day. Even with AI, it's at the foundation. But I think a unique thing that you're doing with Renaissance Intelligence is the trusted data element, which, you want to make sure the stuff that you're leveraging is truth and in fact, and all of these type of things. How are you thinking about the data elements, and whether it's the accuracy and all of those things related to it, when you think about this in the system that you're building with Renaissance Intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about education today in public schools, I'll pick on public schools. That the majority of our goal in the public school system, obviously, it's that everybody makes progress, everybody grows, everybody matriculates with grade level expectations being met, and those standards that happen at every single year. But the challenge is the measurement of that is the end of year test for the state. And it's a measure of the school, it's a measure of the school district, it's a measure of all the subgroups underneath that. But it's in May. It's in May for the most part. Florida, they're doing this 3 times a year. In Nebraska, they're doing maybe 3 times a year as well. But they're waiting till the end of the year. Did it work? And so the data in general is incredibly latent. It's incredibly, it's very waterfallish if in the software world. Did we complete our release? Did we finish everything? Did we get it all done? Did we actually score, in our proficiency range that we expected to be in? And that is a big problem if we're not driving the information to the moment of instruction or the moment of teaching and learning, or within that week or the month or at least the quarter, how do we not let a whole year go by and not adjust for teaching and learning? So I don't think that sounds like 1800s, but it actually is. Most of our states today, assessments are happening. The main measure of that progress for that school, which the federal government requires, is that students make adequate yearly progress. That's passed into law in the ESSA program within our federal government. Now, granted, states have bought products like Renaissance and a couple of my other competitors, so they can do 3 times a year assessments. So a beginning year, middle of the year, end of year assessment, and then compute growth out of those 3 tests. I'm going to argue that's not enough either. And I think that even if I move from waterfall software development and my software development life cycle goes, I'm going to do OKRs and I'm going to measure it per quarter. But I think anybody who does, and I'm getting into the software world because I'm speaking to
that's great for our audience. Good analogies there.
For your space, is now we have continuous development. Now we've got GitHub and we've got these tools that I can do continuous development. I can test these things. I can launch darkly, or I can do these A/B tests very quickly to see what's working. And we see companies that have massively transformed the SaaS industry, and obviously AI coming to this mix. If you don't have the data, you don't have the measures, you're not going to prove if the AI actually works. So if you think about this in the education space, how do we get more exhaust data to understand if it's working faster, so that we're not getting to your mid-year review with your child, or an IEP review that happens every quarter, or some type of we've helped them. We got to measure quickly, and we got to measure at chunks of the information to see if it's working. And so I'm more of the mindset that we need a more mastery model in education, where we see a student progress with something, they master it, they can prove that they've mastered it, we move on, we skip the things that they don't actually need, we adapt the classroom somewhat. Granted, I think standards in general have to be covered. We need to cover the curriculum. We need to cover what we as a state or what we as a country have said, these are the requirements for all learners to learn, and everybody should learn these things. But maybe we can personalize that instructional pace if we measure more frequently, and we measure with speed and accuracy, and it becomes part of an instructional approach, not just an assessment and then an instruction approach. And so I think at the main point here is there's a measurement model, and we're measuring not these long, incredible tests, but in very short cycle, very short periodic ways, and make more agility happen in the educational system. And then I think if you give the teachers these AI pieces, customize this for this group, adapt this piece for this group. I'm going to use this curriculum. I'm going to use this assessment. I'm going to use this data. And how does now, in a sense, the generative AI become the ultimate teacher's assistant to personalize that classroom? That to me is the vision for, I think, an improvement towards teaching and learning. And frankly, we better measure it too. Like, we better measure if AI is more effective than not bringing AI into the classroom. Or at some point when we bring these chatbots right in, let's make them narrow. Let's make them specific to those student needs. Let's not just have this, hey, I forget Elroy's, in the Jetsons, what Elroy's bot's name was. I think it was it Rosie? Or
Rosie, right?
Yeah, Rosie, right? Like, hey, Rosie, do my homework for me. Hey, Rosie, I got to get to... Like, I don't think we want that. We want Elroy thinking. We want Elroy understanding. And getting that help along the way is for sure great. But I want help that makes me struggle. I want help that makes me think harder. I want help that makes me understand something I didn't understand and put these pieces together in a way as a human that you absolutely can do to reason through your multiple problem sets and all this data coming to you at one point.
Yeah, and I love that. I still have PTSD from the big, long end of year standardized test we'd always have to take and whatnot. And I love the idea of doing it on a more reoccurring basis. Is there a future where the assessment doesn't feel like an assessment? I guess maybe
I think
AI
so.
helps
Absolutely.
empower that in a way to where it, to your point, I love the idea of the teacher being able to tailor things the curriculum to meet the child where they are. But there's a feedback loop there in what the child's doing throughout the day. Like you could see a future in this, it's probably further out, but like the concept of a, multiple choice assessment just goes away. And there's like, I tell this to everybody, with sufficient context, AI can do almost anything. And the context of how the learner is performing on whatever task they're doing is a feedback loop into how they're performing, right? And they can adjust from there. But like, do you see a world in the future where the concept of assessment is something different than what it is today?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think creating more simulated environments for the sciences, obviously. I think I think leveraging how I'm really dissecting the granularity of some of these needs. If you think about math problems in general, math problems stack and they spiral, and you continue to learn these parts and pieces. But assessment questions have to generally be written in a more multiple choice, or it can be technology enabled. Drag this over here, drop this over here, and we've definitely moved the needle on technology enabled assessment. But I think more simulated, more experiential, more in the moment. But I think these feedback loops, to the main point, have to be granular enough to know the skill and the gap that's underneath all of those parts and pieces. Like you may be able to get to certain answers, but you're still not understanding the skill that's behind that. And I think that's where we need to interrogate down to a skill and a granularity level for these students to not just pass something at a superficial level or fail something at a superficial level and not know what's going on in a much more granular level. So I do think, I think more frequent, I think short, I think very contextual and specific. I think assessment has ways to go in this space, but I do think it become part of the teaching and learning process embedded. But I still think that the data and the efficacy has to be proven out. And so that takes time. You need a large data set. For us at Renaissance, we have a very large data set. We've been working in a PII, in personally identifiable information, not part of our data sets. So we know a lot about the context and the information, but we also don't hold that PII through this. So we do a lot in terms of understanding of what skills students have skipped, where are the trip steps they trip up on, what difficulties they have through that learning cycle. And we've been able to calculate a lot of those models. So at the heart of this is a data-rich model. And then how does that move how does that change if you have a poor attendance record? We have some surveys in terms of attitudes towards your school, attitude towards your teacher, attitude towards your context of learning. I'm hungry. I don't really want to do this right now. Like we have all of those signals as well. And so bringing those signals together in a way that we can form a very rich backbone of understanding how learning happens and how we can measure that learning as it's happening. And I think that's going to be necessary for when we want to bring more bots into this, when we want to bring more outside parts and pieces, because we need to measure that, because we don't want to impact negatively someone else doing the work for me, if you know what I mean. Like that's the ultimate example is, boy, nobody just wants to have somebody else just do my work, because it's that, whether it's Fast Times at Richmond High or, or, the Breakfast Club, just somebody doing my work for me. Like that's not going to advance us here. And I think that's in many ways what current AI is doing my work for me. I'm cool. I can go play more Xbox.
Totally. Which, when that's the way students are doing it, I think it completely disassociates them from education. And then they're saying, why the heck am I doing this in the first place? And to that, I'd say, I agree with you. Right. So I think that's where it needs to transform. I love the reference there, the Breakfast Club. That's my wife's favorite movie. But I want to get your take on this now. So
actually, can I bring up one more before you go
for it.
there? I think the one key piece in this, in my perspective, is if we're going to bring more skill level information so students are ensured that they're tracking and growing their skills, do they see the why behind it? And I think in many ways in this education, we've failed quite a bit in this category. And it's hard. It's hard to know what jobs, what skills, what interests do I have? How does this align to my future?
Yeah.
So I think there is a real strong need to connect. What do you love, and what do you get excited about? What are your interests? What are your parents' interests? What are other influences that you have that are positive, that are influencing it? What do you want to continue to grow and learn from? Do we know how dad got his job and what skills he grew? Do I want to do that? Or I don't think I want dad's job, but I'd like Uncle John's job or Aunt Susie's job. Like, where now, I'm not saying we should get everybody thinking like you have to pick a career at second grade or anything ridiculous like that. But I do think there's a context to why I'm learning this and what this means for me.
Totally.
And especially as I get to middle school and high school, that should have a direct correlation to, and I should be able to explore everything. I shouldn't be in that I'm only a dancer, I'm only a soccer player, I'm only a football player kind of thing. I should be able to explore lots of opportunities, and those explorations should lead back to skills and understandings.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting too? I think with AI and what's possible today, going down one path is less restrictive than it has been in the past. I think we'll learn that more as you go on, because you can easily learn new things, pivot, do those type of stuff, but which is amazing. And I think it's just clicking that light bulb. But I'll give you another interesting anecdote. So I love building things with AI. So I'm more of a product person similar to you, but I know how systems work and things like that. And I've always wanted to learn to code and build my own things. And I've tried many, many times, and I just kept hitting brick walls, right? And it was this moment of generative AI being able to build that just blew my mind, right? And Lovable was one of the tools, I love to use for this vibe coding. And my daughter was struggling with her multiplication table, so we vibe coded this game to make it interactive together, right? And I showed it to her teacher, and that like unlocked a light bulb in her head where she's like, wow.
Yeah.
And now she's using it, but it goes back to your point again, like empower the teachers to do the things, and then it translates to the students. But the reason I bring that up is like, it's unlocked this thing in my head to where people can just do things. You can just build things. There's less
You just
blockers.
tell something to build something, right?
So like that
got
is
workers.
just so,
you got workers.
Yeah, it's so empowering to me. It's like, how do we unlock that for students? And I think that's where it's this whole different element that's going to emerge. I'm curious, like your thoughts, whether it's vibe coding specifically, the ability to just build things and do things with less inhibitors. Where do you think this kind of comes into the learning equation?
Well, boy, this gets, I think, into a future school kind of concept. Like, I think the more we can get our baseline skills in, check-ins with educators, the human piece of this, that I think there is a role still of direct instruction and interacting together. I do think we're going to see more skill-based understanding and checks for understanding and helping that move through individually. But then as we come back together, as school comes back together, what's more powerful is when we build together. Like, it's great to go build on your own. My oldest son was in the Lego League. It was the robotics program. Yeah. And to watch those kids, and I can even remember my 8th grade year when I had a social studies teacher as well, where we had to build something together. But before I go there, my son was in this robotics league, and you'd watch a different kid take the lead on a different part. You'd ask, they'd go, I've got this idea, and we can have the robot do this, and then we'll have the scoop and do this kind of, and then they pitch their idea, and then the kids start working on it, and they go, oh, that didn't really work very well. Let's go this direction. So I think this idea of Replit or Lovable or vibe coding or now Google Suite, I think it could be a really rich makerspace environment for the actual school day. And the day becomes more enriched around all those leadership skills, all those idea generation that ping off each other. And then how do I let your idea win and my idea win? And sometimes we win together, and sometimes we have to trade off our ideas together. But I think there's a richness of still doing some of these things in the community together. And while I do think we're going to have age level and grade level for a while, mostly because of our sports teams and because of all the other aspects, I do think there's a richness of what the day-to-day education could look like, and what does going to school mean, and maybe going to the classroom and going to school is actually even more fun than doing the work ahead of time that I'm ready for.
I love that. I got to show you this now. And this, for the people listening, I'll just talk through it. You mentioned Legos, like just back to the idea of just building things. I vibe coded this random Lego builder. I think this one I did with Lovable, but you can add, bricks to the thing, and you can move them around, stack them, do all these things.
Fun.
And of course I added something that allows you to AI generate. You can tell it to build something and it'll build it.
Give me a castle. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. But you can, I'll just take some that are already built, but like you mentioned the castle, and it builds the thing, and you can, so this is a complete aside, but get but like, come on, and this is the type of thing, like teaching a kid to do this, like just talking to technology, like this is just mind-blowing stuff in my opinion. But
yeah, and that combining with the Minecraft world, where in the Minecraft world you're building and creating environments, but here now actually build me. I want you to take the construction, the physical and the virtual and the Minecraft world. There becomes a really interesting interplay together.
Totally.
And it's really true. We're gonna have to live in this world of simulated, automatically created, quickly created, with the physical world, the real world. How do I augment this, and how do I think this way? But because not everything happens to clean your room automatically, right? Or to get better dancer, to be just vibe coding, if you will. So how do you balance this world of, I want myself to have something created, and what makes sense to create? And that gets into the education piece as well. And why? What's the why behind it all? What's the problem we're trying to solve?
Yeah. The why, having skin in the game, all of that. So to wrap it up, like I want to get back to Renaissance Intelligence. I'm just curious.
Sure.
For a lot of our clients, they are in enterprises and companies, and they're going through their own AI adopting AI, learning about AI. How are you thinking about it at Renaissance, whether it's literally upskilling your own people to the product that you're building, Renaissance Intelligence? Because Renaissance it's not like a startup that started yesterday, right? So the company's been around, you've had several acquisitions. So give us your story or personal anecdotes from going through this journey within the company, and then as it relates to Renaissance Intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, I think November 2022 on, we've been in some way, shape, or form. We have to actually go backwards, because Renaissance has been doing machine learning and data prediction modeling for 35 years. That's when we launched STAR. We predict the end of year test scores. You give a test in the beginning of the year, we should be able to predict what you're going to do on the ACT or on your state test.
Oh, wow.
And we've been doing that. So we have all that rich data store. We've been aligning data to every single state standard. We're building learning progressions. We've aligned to all these textbooks. We have this smart indexed engine of data that has been there, and we've got safe and productive ways of bringing a model for how learners are learning. That's what I was talking about earlier. So where we've had to go next is to do a major transformation within our own team. So we got two things going on at the same time. One is an operational transformation of the company. We're owned by private equity. We're encouraged by our friends at Francisco Partners and Blackstone to just push the limits on the operational side of things. That means having our sales team get smarter with how they look at pipeline data and how they predict their end of year sales, whether it's our marketing team and the customization and the automation marketing that they're doing, whether that's getting traditional marketing to move into a more AI driven model, as well as to be aware from our from all of the pioneer models and make sure that we're aware, that they're aware of Renaissance in this. And then I think further, it's product and engineering. It's been huge. And so we're moving into smaller teams. We built our own Claude backbone. We've got all of our teams have the ability to share their agents with each other. We've shared that with our support teams as well. They build their own agents. So a lot is happening on the operational front. I could go down dozens of different examples, but we've given them a lot of autonomy to go build and create, similar to what you're doing on a personal level, to do that within the system and in the teams.
But I actually like to,
before I go to.
Yeah, I'd actually like to go deeper into one point you mentioned around the engineering and product teams. Like for us, because what triggered in my head is we're experiencing this as well, and this is the foundation of what we do. Like we've defined our own methodology called generative driven development, but it's just leveraging AI in the development process. And we have engineers now. You mentioned the 2022 November milestone, but I think there was another one this past year in November where the models with
for sure.
Opus and
Agentic.
all those ones that came out, they just got so good. And you look at was this amazing graph with Cursor, and the tab complete used to be the standard thing people would do, and then it went to agent accepted changes became the default fast. And like our teams, like our engineers, we have a quote on our page about GenDD from one of our engineers that says, "I haven't written a line of code in 3 months, but I've shipped 6 months worth of work." And it's just transformed how they think and do. And like to your point, smaller teams, like you don't need this massive team anymore. And they can just do way more. So any, like, it sounds like y'all are adopting this in a similar fashion. Any nuance?
We are. I think the difference, Matt, before you ask your question, is we've also inherited a lot of legacy platforms. And so even products that don't have CDCI, that don't have a rich software development lifecycle of agility. And so you balance these heavyweight products, but now we're starting to see, well, actually we can really get rid of it. We can squish a lot of bugs a lot faster once we've really understood, once the agentic models have really taken off. And again, I'm not the CTO, I'm the CPO, so the product guy in me, I'm super excited about this because I can get more stuff. I got more ideas that we want to deliver. We're seeing UX people now deliver code and ship code and not even have sometimes our engineering team in the middle of that. Not that we don't want them, but really we're getting right from Figma right into the code, and it's pretty exciting. But on the same tide, we got this legacy side that we want to bring over and really rationalize all these products and systems together. So that we're in a kind of a duality of everybody's using AI tools in some respects. We started with Cursor. We had Microsoft Copilot for a while, and now we're headlong into Anthropic and building. That side of the suite is probably more of our stack right now.
Yeah, it's so interesting from a product standpoint too. To your point, you can do so much more. You can think about the definition of requirements and taking those further. Because a lot of times, I do think Agile is going to evolve as well. Because I feel like a lot of ways there was this.
We had all these stages and steps and all these steps
which was better than waterfall, but like now it's you define the requirements.
So documentation heavy and so story driven and all these. And granted, I'm not ripping that, but I want my agent to go write the story. Here's the idea I'm trying to get to, and go put it into Confluence and get to Jira and whip it up.
Because so often I think you do these ceremonies, the sprint planning, and they're still super valuable. But a lot of times the engineer's not really digging into the thing until they're about to do it, and then they bring up some issue or something. But you can circumvent.
The PO goes back and forth on it, and
exactly. So there's just so much room for evolution. But to wrap us up. Where can people learn more about Renaissance Intelligence, or any other parting words on Renaissance Intelligence specific to the platform that you're learning as you're building this thing out?
I appreciate it. Yeah, I think we're really excited about, one, Renaissance AI is in our middle names, in the middle of our names, so that's kind of exciting.
From a branding perspective.
We're branding that AI in the middle, but This is a kind of a multitude of efforts. One, it's bringing multiple products from multiple data sources together. So we've done 20 product acquisitions in 8 years.
Wow.
Think about that. 20 products, 20 different stacks of technology, 20 different logins, 20 different rostering systems, 20 different database systems. We had to move all of that into a Snowflake environment. They're all in AWS, fortunately, so that's been great. But AWS, Snowflake, using Snowflake, bringing that data together, unifying the rostering systems, unifying the backbone. And now we're taking all the parts and pieces and creating a net new AI experience with a new UX. And that UX is assessment, reading, math.
Yeah.
Simplified, taking all the assets from all these products, unifying that experience, and then giving teachers multiple steps of the data points and giving recommendations and AI-driven assets to personalize the instruction for every student or every group of students or the whole class. And then taking context into the entire engine, where we're building all of the textbooks into this engine, and the textbooks, the state standards, and all the sequences that are necessary so that the district has a platform of AI that they can rely on. We've got a lot of upstarts in the EdTech space. They're magic something. Everything's a magic or a magical thing. But these upstarts don't have any recognition or understanding of the student data, and they haven't necessarily been in the classrooms as long as we have to generate this kind of rich data store of student information, student learning, personalized opportunities with generative. And so while they've done a great job on the generative AI side of things, how do you match that to the customization of every single classroom and every single school in the nation or in the world? That is going to require some heavy duty data sets like we have. And that's what we're pretty excited about with Renaissance Intelligence.
Totally. And that's what we tell all of our clients, especially ones that have this rich data. Like, that's where your biggest differentiator and moat resides. It's just unlocking that in a sense. But where can people listening find you, Todd, and learn more about Renaissance AI?
Yeah, I'm at Todd Brekhus on the socials, and I am in renaissance.com and at RenLearn. I think it's RenLearn. We'll double check that one. But
we'll put it in the show notes. Yeah,
that'd be great. Renaissance.com gets you everywhere.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking some AI, Todd.
Thanks, Matt. Great talking with you today.
Thanks for listening to the Talking AI podcast. If you enjoyed the show, give us a follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to leave us a review. We love those. For more info on Talking AI, visit talkingaipodcast.com. The single biggest mistake we see companies make with AI is they don't properly train their teams. We see it all the time. Companies roll out AI tools and expect people to just figure it out. But using AI effectively requires a totally different mindset and skill set. And that's exactly why we built training for every level of your org, from AI training for teams and executives to training engineering teams on our generative-driven development methodology. Or if you've already identified your AI use cases and want to just prioritize where to start, we offer an AI roadmap and ROI workshop to help you build a clear plan. It's all about going from we should use AI to actually driving real value with it. Head over to hatchworks.com to learn more.